Israel didn't do that. That's why he had Nebuchadnezzar come down and destroy it. Now they done spent 70 years in bondage, and now they've gone back to the land, and look at what they did. Nehemiah chapter 13. Nehemiah chapter 13. Lord said, just keep the Sabbath day, and I will let you remain in the land, and you will have kings and princes sitting up on thrones. And this city will remain forever. But Nebuchadnezzar came down there and leveled it to the ground. Even that beautiful temple that the Lord had Solomon to build, it was leveled to the ground as well. Leveled all of the king's palaces and leveled even that temple and everything. Now, Israel has spent 70 years in bondage. That should have been a lesson, shouldn't it? Yep. You would think. You know, when I get back to the land, I'm going to do everything right. I ain't going to do nothing wrong no more. They was barely back in the land. Hadn't even finished rebuilding the city or the sanctuary. Start reading at Nehemiah chapter 13 and began at verse 15. 13 and 15. Go ahead and read.
In those days saw I in Judah some trading wine presses on the Sabbath.
Now here Nehemiah said, in those days I saw in Judah some that was trading wine presses on the Sabbath day. Now you just got back in the land now. You done spent 70 years in bondage. That should have been a message. You understand what I'm saying? Don't get in there. Lord told us we come in here and mess up on the Sabbath day. He told us what he was going to do to us. And he did it. So now, you should always remember that. You understand what I'm saying? Every time your hand get ready to do something wrong, oh man, I remember what the Lord did to us when we violated the Sabbath day before. Not to Israel. Nehemiah said, I saw some treading the wine presses on the Sabbath day. Go ahead and read on.
And bringing in sheaves and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens.
Go ahead.
Which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day when they sold victuals.
He said, and Nehemiah said, and I testified against them in the day in which they sold. In other words, I went and told them about it. Man, don't you remember what happened to us or our forefathers when we messed up on the Sabbath day last time? Don't you remember that? Don't you remember how Nebuchadnezzar came down there and seized Jerusalem and killed everybody, old, young, and old? Because Lord told Nebuchadnezzar, don't spare nobody. And I guarantee you, he didn't spare none of them. Don't you remember that? That's what Nehemiah is saying here. I testified against them. Don't you remember what happened to us? Go ahead and read on.
There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem.
So now, you had Israel, they were selling on the Sabbath day. Then you had the stranger, they done showed up, and they selling to Israel on the Sabbath day. Go ahead and read on.
Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, what evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day?
Nehemiah said, then I contended with them, and I said, what evil thing is that you do on the Sabbath day? Go ahead and read on.
Did not your fathers thus? And did not our God bring all this evil upon us?
See what he reminded them. He said, didn't your fathers do that? And then God bring all of this evil upon us because of that. He's the same God. You said, well, you know, ain't nobody going to do all that stuff to us now. But I'm going to tell you right now, God going, if you choose to be disobedient to the Lord's commandments, He going to deal with you in some way at some point. I guarantee He is. You're going to look up one day and you ain't going to like your plight. Go ahead and read on.
He said, and upon this city, yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath.
See what Nehemiah said? Yet you bring more wrath upon Israel that by profaning the Sabbath. So the Lord just let them know, Nehemiah just let them know, brother, you know, you saw what the Lord did to you last time this happened to you. Now you turning around and doing the same thing again. Well, all you going to do is bring more wrath up on you. Go ahead and continue reading now.
And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut,
Uh-huh.
and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath.
Go ahead.
And some of my servants set I at the gates,
Uh-huh.
that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day.
So now Nehemiah, he said, you ain't going to do it on my watch. You might do it, but not on my watch. Long as I'm sitting here, I got men servants that's sitting there watching everything. And you ain't going to bring none of this stuff into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. Go ahead and read on.
So the merchants and sellers of all kinds of wares lodged without Jerusalem once or twice.
Uh-huh. Now he said, they still hung around once. Oh, he ain't doing it but just talking. Just talking out of his mouth, that's all. He ain't going to do nothing else. But look at, Nehemiah wasn't that kind of guy. Go ahead and read on.
Then I testified against them,
Uh-huh.
and said unto them,
Go ahead.
Why lodge ye about the wall? If ye do so again,
Uh-huh.
I will lay hands on you.
Go ahead.
From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath.
Now, apparently, they knew Nehemiah meant exactly what he said. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm just showing you how Israel got in trouble in the first place for breaking it, didn't it? Then what did they do? They turned around and started all over again. Nehemiah just reminded them, you got in trouble for it once. Now you're doing the same thing. Why wouldn't you think you're going to get in trouble for it again? Let's go further. Let's go now to Exodus chapter 31, and we're going to pick it up at verse 12. 31, and we'll begin reading at verse 12. Lord going to let you know that this Sabbath thing, it is a perpetual covenant. Exodus chapter 31, and we'll begin reading at verse 12. 31, and we'll pick it up at verse 12. Okay, go ahead and read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying.
Now, you saying, well, the Lord just talking to the children of Israel. I got news for you. Whatever the Lord said to the children of Israel, it's for everybody. If you're going to be a servant of God, then whatever the Lord said for Israel, it applies to everybody. Now, he said, the Lord says to Moses, speak unto the children of Israel. Go ahead and read on.
Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep,
Uh-huh.
for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generation.
For how long? Throughout your generation. Well, as long as there's a generation of Israel, then the seventh-day Sabbath day, it is still good. It did not change. You can't read nowhere in the Bible where it ever changed. Nowhere. You want to tell me about what Paul did and about how Jesus rose on the Sabbath day, which he did not. But nevertheless, that's what they want to tell you about, but they can't read nowhere in the book where the Sabbath day changed from the seventh day to the first day. Go ahead, continue reading.
That ye may know that I am the Lord that doeth sanctify you.
Uh-huh.
Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you.
Go ahead.
Every one that defileth it shall surely be put to death.
Well, ain't nobody going to be putting me to death now just because I defile. No, ain't nobody going to take you out there and stone you. But you better find out something. We're going to read something a little bit later. Go ahead and read on.
For whosoever doeth any work therein,
Uh-huh.
that soul shall be cut off from among his people.
Go ahead.
6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest,
Uh-huh.
holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death.
Go ahead.
Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations, for a perpetual covenant.
Now, how long is perpetual?
Forever.
Forever, isn't it? So that means that the Sabbath day, it wasn't just good back then in Moses' time. It was good in Isaiah's time, Jeremiah's time, our time, and even forever, it said, didn't it? Let's go now to let's go and read something here from the New Compact Bible Dictionary. When the Lord said the seventh day, Sabbath day is forever, that is exactly what he meant. I just want you to read this first sentence here. We're reading from the New Compact Bible Dictionary. Just read that first sentence there, because it's going to tell us something here.
The early Christians,
Uh-huh.
most of whom were Jews,
He said, now the early Christians, most of whom were Jews, not all of them, but most of them. Go ahead and read on.
kept the seventh day as the Sabbath.
They kept the seventh day as the Sabbath day. Let's go now to Matthew chapter 28, and we're going to read just one verse, and that is verse 1. Matthew 28, and read the first verse. 28 and 1.